Welcome, welcome, welcome. Has a 50% chance of being awkward here at the beginning because we didn't say, hey, who's going to intro? Who's going to do this? How are we starting?
We're
So, you
glad
know
you're
what?
here listening to the Life Unfiltered show.
Podcast show.
Don't! I'm over it. I really am over
Life
it.
Unfiltered podcast show. It's got such a flow
It's
to it.
no, it's super annoying. You're annoying me. You're annoying people that listen, and you're also confusing people because they don't know what the fucking title of this podcast is.
I have not received one piece of correspondence stating that I have annoyed a listener. So
Look,
until I receive an email or some sort of online commentary that says such, I think you're throwing bullshit because you don't like it and everybody else does.
one, bomb him with those messages, please. Two, vibe attracts tribe, and there's likely more people watching and listening to this that
That love my vibe.
are
You're
my
right.
tribe than
Nope.
yours.
False.
So I know that if I'm annoyed, they're annoyed, and they only tolerate it because it's like a package
A
deal.
Doyle rules, man. You know I'm at the top of the pile. Anyway,
Welcome
welcome
back.
to the Life Unfiltered podcast show, episode 984. We are glad you guys are here. Me and my beautiful wife. I'm Justin DeWeese. I bring all the snarky comments and witty observations. That's my beautiful spoon-handed wife, Ashley DeWeese. She brings the grumpiness, the opinions, and the absolute fire that will change your life if you let it.
So glad you're back.
I'm glad you're back. How are you?
I was back last week. I was back with a fire episode. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, please go listen
Go
to it.
back and check out episode 661. It
And
was
I'm not just
the
saying it's
bomb.
fire. Other people told me I was fire, so I just
Right.
go by what they say.
Unlike the feedback on the title of
Right,
the
right. Oh
show,
my God.
that
Can
one
we
she's
talk
not making
about
up.
something else for
We're
goodness
working on it.
sakes?
We're working on it. Hey, guess what?
What?
It is officially no longer summer.
I know I talked about this on my stories last night, very, very briefly, that I get it's a conundrum for me. I think I used that word right. Because as a coach, I know that we get to choose our perspective, and that if we look at something as though it's going to be sucky, then it's most likely going to be sucky. So, on one hand, I know. On the other hand, I'm taking my coach hat off and I'm just human. And I flip and hate it when summer ends. I do not look forward. I mean, I like fall because I can wear hoodies. I like this time frame because it's still like I can wear hoodies, but yet I can still wear tank tops if I want, tank top and jeans, tank top and shorts, hoodie and shorts. Like there's a lot of different options, so I'm cool with that. But much further into this season, I'm just over it. It brings darkness, it brings cold, it brings lots of inside time, and those are all things that your girl just doesn't really do as well with as she does summer months.
I don't really look forward to autumn because, like you just said, you don't know if you're going to wear a tank top or a sweatshirt or whatever. And so then I get to hear I'm cold. I'm hot. Why did I wear this? I'm cold. I need a sweatshirt. Do we have a blanket in the truck? It's just, although I did learn yesterday, I saw a funny meme on the Instagram that autumn, like I guess over in England, they all say autumn, none of them say fall. That autumn comes from the Latin word autumnus, which means the passing of the year.
Okay.
And then, of course, the meme was like, in America, we call it fall because leaf fall off tree.
It sounds like a pure-blooded American right there.
It is
I mean,
whatever. So
autumn, fall is a season of shedding, letting go, renewal.
preparing,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Although
the
in some
last,
instances, it's never mind.
no, what?
why I was saying it's like a season of shedding, but it's actually usually a season where people are like
Start putting
down.
on them winter coats.
Facts.
Yeah, it's so anyway, the reason I brought that up was, it's the changing of a season. We get four of them here on this beautiful planet Earth, which is pretty amazing. Um, but it really, I was thinking about it, and it speaks to the majesty of life and design, right? Because not only do we have these four seasons, but this sort of seasonal
Shift.
analogy applies to lots of other things, right? Like we go through seasons on the calendar, winter, spring, summer, fall. We go through seasons in our life, right? We have
Winter, spring, summer, fall. All you have to do is call and I'll be there. Yes, I will. I had
what's the
to. I
what
hated
what's the
I
next
hated to interrupt.
what's the next line?
Um, I don't know the next line.
I'll be your friend. And see, that's where you drop the ball because you can't finish it anyway.
Oh, I'll finish it.
Oh, easy, easy. Anyway, we go through seasons or cycles in life too, right? And I think where a lot of people get tripped up is they get to thinking that in X area of my life, I'm not going to have a season of winter.
Yeah.
Or you can find yourself in a season of winter in a relationship or at your job or whatever, and like, I'm never going to see summer again. But the reality is, you're going to, right? It's all cyclical. What you thinking there?
Why do you ask?
Because I can see I'm I've been married to you for a long time.
Well, one, I'm coming off of my period, so that's just I don't really have a oh, I only am highly emotional in the beginning. Kind of just runs throughout. But
Life,
no, I mean, we're in a season right now. Like, we're in a season right now, of our marriage, of our parenting, in our life. Like, we're in one of those seasons that is rough.
not the
Maybe
best of
not.
weather.
Not the best of weather. That's right. Um, and before, just y'all like, what do they mean? What? It's just life, like marriage. Like, if you're married, if you have kids, if you have extended family, if you are breathing, um, you're a human. There's just tough times because anytime you are connected to other humans, like shit's automatically complex. Even when it's simple, it's still complex because we're human.
And again, like I said, the thing to remember is that winter doesn't last forever, right? And a lot of times that's where this advice comes from of, oh, well, like these tough times won't be forever or blah 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 blah. It's always from the quote unquote negative side, right? But we also need to be mindful that summer don't last forever either. And quite
Right.
honestly, like without winter, I wouldn't truly appreciate summer. And without summer, I wouldn't truly appreciate winter because in the middle of July when it's 100 degrees and I'm thinking, man, I'd kill to be making a snowman right now.
Ugh, that never goes through my brain. Like
Well,
literally never.
okay, then use whatever analogy. I'd like to be having some hot apple cider by the fireplace and watching the snowfall outside. If
I mean,
that
that
works
doesn't
for you.
either because I don't like apple cider, but I get
Uh,
your I
you're
get your point. But
exhausting.
you know me so well, apparently.
You know,
Um, I will play a little, even though I know both sides of this, I'll go ahead and sit on the side that I typically would lean toward as a person, because I know there's people out there that can relate to it. Between the two of us, the beard is definitely more on the naturally optimistic side, as far as like, hey, summer's coming. If you're in winter, summer has to be coming. There's got to be a point to this, you know, struggle, darkness, et cetera, et cetera. Lessons, all the things, right? I, by nature, focus more on the this season is freaking hard and I'm over it. And I it doesn't feel like it's ever going to end. And how am I ever going to get through this? And I don't know that I will ever see the sun again. Like that is my default. And if you didn't know that about me, I want to make sure that you do know that because, even though I've had a lot of personal development and positive shifts in my life and who I am, and although I am a wellness coach and a life coach, and I am able to help others make these shifts, like we've talked about before, it's more so a case where I don't default to this line of thinking as much, or when I do, I just have acquired the tools to better navigate it. But I think that's an important share, right? Like I'm not someone, there are people who are that kind of person like yourself, but like I'm not someone that naturally defaults to the positive lens.
Well, I don't. So I
And
would
maybe you
put
don't.
forth, I would put forth that nobody is, right? That by default, we're all looking for the downside because that is that is what is biologically, evolutionarily, whatever phrasing you want to put on it, that's what's going to be best for you to survive and continue, to be looking to avoid risk, to see the downside and be constantly aware of it and moving away from it.
Sure, I would agree with that. Then I would say that there's something within like my life experiences that
Well, right. So,
has me
right.
more prone to
So
stay there or default there.
where I was going to go with that is like it was just like beat into my head
Mm.
that like it works out for Deweeses. Like we just if you're Deweese, like if you keep pushing forward, like it's gonna work out the way you want it to work out. Like never really those kind of words, but just like that sort of mindset and mantra
Yeah.
was constantly put forth by my dad. And so like that's how my brain looks at things now. Like, yeah, this sucks and it could be way better. It could be way worse. And I'm learning things here and I'm moving forward. And when I come out on the other side, I'm going to be better for this.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like a major difference, where you had that kind of on repeat, growing up and whatnot. And in my home growing up, it was like probably like a mixed message, right? And maybe a mixed message, and one thing was being said, but there was another thing being seen,
Sure.
right? So in my home, like the idea of like anything is possible, and you can get through anything, and you can conquer anything, and you can whatever. Like that was definitely like a message that was a theme growing up from my parents and whatnot. Um, but I observed a lot of the opposite.
Sure.
I observed and experienced a lot of things like not working out and not being the positive ending. And so for me, I think I saw like, and this is probably where I guess I've never thought of it that way. This is probably where some of my I'm very quick to see like misalignment between like what's being said versus what's actually happening in real
Sure.
time. Um, because while that message was there, I was observing as a child in real time things not working out, things always being a challenge, a struggle, etc. And so most likely that obviously has colored my perspective to where I tend to default even more so to here we go. It's like this season, it's not going to end because this, the patterns that I saw without to continue rambling on. But
Sure. No, it makes perfect sense.
yeah.
But I think the important thing to share with our listeners is number one, and this is something I've been working on as a post to get out there, is the idea of this too shall pass, right? And again, like whenever you hear someone say that, like it's always in a this too shall pass, this bad situation you don't want to be in anymore, this too shall pass. But bearing in mind that it's on the flip side too, when times are really good, this too
Right.
shall pass. Because good times don't last forever. It's the way of the world. The other thing that you were talking about that I think is potentially valuable for our beloved Lupsters is, like you said, you're working to grow your growth mindset in this area, right? That you recognize that while your upbringing and life up to this point has definitely steered you in a certain direction, that's not always productive or most useful for you, right? And
Right.
that you're working to grow, not because that is completely handicapping, but at the same time, like Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh, they're not to me, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. To me, nothing good comes out of walking around looking for the negative, the downside, the other shoe to drop all the time.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is that someone with a brain like me, or someone with, I guess it's not really a brain like me. Maybe it is a brain like me. Um, or conditioning like me, I guess, is that we believe that there is good in doing that, right? So
Well, sure.
I'm going to unpack this a little bit because even though the things I'm about to say, like I already know like both sides, right? I know like I know like the line of thinking. I also know like from a coaching perspective, from a growth perspective, I know the opposite of that to be true. But I
Okay.
want to share it because I know I have clients who think in this way and I work with them to, you know, unravel this and reprogram. And I'm sure there's other people listening who can relate. Um, there is good, like in those of us that have that conditioning and that line of thinking, we believe that it is useful for us to think that way because what we believe it does for us is we believe it protects us. We believe it provides us with a sense of like security and safety. Because if I believe that ultimately the other shoe is going to drop, right? Which is typically like how I describe this kind of thinking, like believing that the other shoe is going to drop. Like,
Right.
either it's already dropped and you're in it, or things are going good right now. When is shit going to hit the fan?
Right.
Um, and when you are someone who thinks in that way, you believe that thinking that way is useful, because that means you believe that you are constantly like preparing, like you're preparing for, you're prepared, right?
Right.
So like I don't want to allow myself to, I'm gonna throw out some examples. Like I don't want to allow myself to get too happy in this relationship, because I know that at some point the other shoe is going to drop, which means if I stay guarded and not completely like just vulnerable and free, then when, not if, but when the other shoe drops, because that's my conditioning, when the other shoe drops, it's not going to hurt me as bad, because I knew that this was coming. And so therefore
Right.
I didn't allow myself. Same thing goes with, I'll just give one other example. Same thing goes with like success. And this could be like thinking of success in like your health journey, or success in a business that you're building. If I believe it's useful for me to believe like, hey, like, at some point that other shoe is going to drop, at some point, like it's not going to stay like this. That is helpful for me, because again, like I don't allow myself to get too excited about something, because again, I'm protecting myself from when it doesn't. And the alternative would be true, that if I look at like this, hey, I'm in a season of winter in my business or in my relationship. I believe by, looking at that going, well, this is just how it goes, or whatever. Again, I feel like it leads you to believe that you're actually protecting yourself. You're keeping yourself protected, prepared, secure, which the opposite of that is, you're actually, by living that way with that lens, with that line of thinking, it actually isn't so useful, because you're not really protecting yourself. You're actually limiting yourself. You're actually cutting yourself off from experience full happiness, full levels of success, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like you're just allowing yourself to live in somewhat of a constant state of pain or discomfort
Right.
constantly, as opposed to living sometimes in some pain and discomfort, but other times then being able to live in a state of joy and happiness, fulfillment, excitement.
Well, right. So Tony Robbins says, and I'm sure other people said it, but he's the one I heard it from, that all of our behaviors, thoughts, and actions serve us.
Yeah.
Like even if it's a crazy negative habit.
Right.
Like even if my habit is smoking crack,
Right.
that serves me
Right.
in
Because,
some
for
in some way.
example, right, it could be that like by you smoking crack, it allows you to numb yourself
Right.
to certain other pains in
Right.
your life. Right.
It makes my
Right.
weight loss way easier, stuff like
Right.
that. Um and so that leads into what you were just saying there at the end of, you just kind of live in this constant state of pain, but you're giving yourself the illusion of control,
Right.
right? You're saying, hey, I know that this is going to go sideways at some point, so I'm not going to lean fully into it, because that way I won't get fully hurt. I won't
Right.
fully experience the love and the happiness. I'm just going to kind of wallow here in the middle, but that puts me in control of it,
Right. And like you
right?
said, it is an illusion. And I'm teary-eyed with this, because this is like, I mean, it's not a shocker to you, but like this is a huge pain point for me, because um this is a state that I do battle
Right.
every single day.
Sure.
Um because of, and not that you haven't had experiences in your life, but for me, in my life and my experiences because of some of the traumatic events I've had in my life, my dad's death, my mom's fall, friends dying in a car crash, like brother and sister doing what they do and completely essentially like cutting themselves off, like all these things that have been extremely painful. It's like, well, like you said, I will protect myself, or what I think I can do to protect myself, to stay in control of things, because I know that these various events that have occurred, like for the most part, like they were out of my control, right? And I think when things happen in our life, like that's all we're wanting. Because when significant life happenings occur that are negative, and life changing, we feel completely out of control,
Right.
right? And as humans, like we're looking for like what's the thing that I can have control over. So like for me, hey, like I can't control what may be going to continue to come down the pipe for me, just like these other experiences in my life. I couldn't control that they actually happened. But you know what? Like I'm gonna like harden my heart now. I can control that, right? I can make it so I don't care so much. I can make it so I don't allow myself to be 100% open and vulnerable in my life. I can allow myself not to fully receive love from other people, because I want to control the amount of pain I experience in the future when another bad thing happens.
Right. I get it. I completely understand. And I was thinking, um, as you were talking there, like just for our listeners' clarity, because we described our differing mindsets early on, make sure everybody understands that I know that things are going to go sideways and suck and whatnot in every area. But like I said, it just was beat into me to view it as, hey, that's something that has to happen for you. You're going to grow through it. You're going to come out better on the other side. It's going to lead to this, that opportunity, whatever. And
But I have a question about that. And obviously, like, I'm not asking you to get like super detailed or whatever.
oh, hey,
So
listen,
only,
it's a Life Unfiltered podcast show. We're
well, hey,
unfiltered
I
here.
just figure if I'm gonna like cry and share certain realities that, it's fair game to ask you some things. Because while you do hold that perspective and certainly like play it out far more often than I ever do, um, there are also beliefs that you hold about yourself that are contrary to that, right?
Of
That
course.
that compete with that. So I guess my wondering is, where in those moments where you have those negative feelings about yourself that you carry, where or when does that framework play into that? And like I said, I don't
Like,
know if you want to get any more clear because that's
sure. No,
I'm being
listen.
kind of muddy.
It breaks down like this. The reality is I know that I'm going to screw everything up. I know that I can't get anything right.
You believe that about yourself.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just clarifying, like that's a belief that you hold about yourself. That's not actually 100% true.
Track record to the contrary, sure.
Okay, again.
My point is, I know I'm going to screw everything up. I'm going to get it all wrong. But I also know that I'm going to keep trying and I'll figure it out and I'll get a little bit better, hopefully. And when I screw it up the next time, it won't be the exact same screw up. And I'll push through that one and I'll learn through that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think without that positive belief that things are going to work out, that I'm going to figure it out and it'll whatever eventually, I'd have painted the ceiling already.
But like, when do you know? And I think this is part of where the difference is between you and I, which causes points of contention, at times, in our marriage with each other, of like, at what point, like, where's the balance between that and like also knowing when, like, to cut bait, right? Like, to cut bait as far as like, this is just not, I need to go a different direction, right? Or like, I don't know if I'm saying this clearly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's all context specific, right?
Sure. Like based
Because
upon the situation that you're
yeah,
facing.
I mean, the transmission went bad on our last truck, right? I'm not going to keep banging my head and trying to duct tape my way through that one. I'm going to get rid of it and get into a new vehicle.
Well, okay, it's kind of like for me, it's probably like a whole nother topic, so we don't necessarily need to go into it. But for me, I'm someone that like, and it's, you find when you're on a path of growth, and especially if you're like a believer in Christ, uh, it creates quite the internal conflict looking at like the idea of accountability and justice,
Sure.
knowing the grace that we've received and continue to receive from God, from our own sin and wrongdoings. And so I think sometimes like the thing that am looking for is, you know, you talk about, hey, I know, or I believe about myself that I'm always going to screw things up. Like I'm never going to get it right. I'm always going to make wrong choices. And yet, because of the beliefs that I hold that everything is going to work out for the good, I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep moving forward. For me, and again, this has to do with my life experiences and conditioning, I want there to be accountability for people. Like when people make wrong choices, especially if like it's like just keep making wrong choices, like I want them to be held accountable for that. Like I want there to be some kind of punishment for that.
Sure.
Um and I'm being very raw and real here. Like because it sounds terrible. Like I want them to suffer. And I think some of that comes at the hands of like, if I'm in pain because of someone else's choices, it's not fair to me that they don't have to experience the pain for making those choices. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And so then it creates I can look at this in terms of like family members that I no longer have relation with, right? Like I think that was the hardest thing uh when my dad passed away, is the conflict that was still there when he passed away between him, and not just him, my mom too, but him and my two siblings, which had then spilled over into contributing to conflict between me and my two siblings.
Right.
And so then when he passed away, the idea of like reconciling with them, and for a multitude of reasons beyond just the one I'm going to share, like there was no reconciliation and I didn't want it. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that, again, some of that, not all of it by any means, but like a part of that was like, I'm not going to reconcile with you when I know the pain that you caused him, right? When I know the wrong that you did him, and and where is it that you have to pay for those choices that you made that contributed to the hurt there? Like, why do I have to, forgive and let go, and you essentially get off scot free? Because then to me, I interpret that as like, doesn't that then, I don't know if it's like I feel like weak, right? Like I'm allowing you, not you, I'm allowing them in this
Right.
scenario. Like I'm allowing you to have done things that I believe were totally like wrong. And so if I let that go, if I allow that and reconcile with you, then it's as if you have no accountability for those poor choices that you made and the impact that those choices had. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And at the same time, I also know that like all of those feelings and whatever, if I continue to carry those things, like ultimately it's just harming me, right? Because I'm
Right.
carrying around the stress and the frustration and the anger and the hurt and all of that
Right.
until this person pays, these two people pay for how they behaved and whatever.
Right.
It's like I said, it's kind of a complicated thing that maybe we can talk about a different episode, but I think, I don't know, going back to the whole like, hey, I'm going to screw things up. I'm going to, flounder and whatever, but I just know that everything's going to ultimately work out and keep moving forward. Thinking about it in terms of like the relationship like that, I'm going like, hey, like these two people in my life, like, oh, well, they're going to make mistakes and I just need to keep loving them and keep moving on through this with them. And then I feel like, I think it ends up making me feel like, or I believe that, like, then I'm a pushover, then I'm not being respected, that I don't. And so therefore, I'm like, fuck you. Like, no, like, there has to be accountability for your actions.
Right. And I'm not trying to say there shouldn't be accountability, right? And I'm also not saying like I know I'm going to I know I'm going to screw everything up, so I'm just going to screw everything up, right? It's more of a I know in spite of my best efforts, I'm not going to get all the things right, right? Like it I'm going to make all the mistakes. Not intentionally, but like there's nothing I can do to stop it and like I'm going to make poor decisions and on and on and on and on, right? Um and as far as the forgiveness side of it, yeah, like there's that part of your animal spirit that like forgiving does feel weak and like you're allowing things and whatnot, right? But it's that old saying that like not forgiving somebody is like drinking poison yourself and expecting them to die.
Right.
Like you're not you're not doing anything. You're having zero impact in this example that you were talking about on your siblings' lives.
Right.
You're only impacting your own. And like and the struggle is, and I struggle with this myself all the time, right? That forgiving an action, a behavior, a word, whatever, isn't saying, "Hey, that's okay. That's the right way to treat me." Right? It's saying, "I understand. I've made mistakes too. You made a mistake. Maybe you don't view it as mistake. Maybe you really meant to tell me to go F myself. But I forgive you for saying that to me. It's not right. I don't want it to happen again. But me not forgiving you just adds another rock into my backpack that I got to carry around.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing, multiple things obviously that I've learned from our walk with Christ and whatnot is understanding that forgiveness is more about you than it is anybody else, like you said. It allows you not to continue carrying that big old rock or boulder in some cases in your backpack. Um, but also, which was a hang up for me for a long time, and it's not like it still doesn't go through my mind, but I have this awareness now that forgiveness uh does not mean that you are then making complete amends as if it were never happened and now everything's going to be happy hunky dory whatever. Like you can forgive someone for the choices that they've made, for the things that they've done, and then also make a decision to not continue to expose yourself to that person, to be around that person, or maybe you limit exposure. It can look a lot of different ways. And I think for the longest time, that was why forgiveness was mostly so difficult for me, is I felt like if I say, I forgive you for the things that you've said or the things that you've done, then that means we're good again. Like we're just good and we can hang out and we can be buddy buddies. And I was like, but I don't want that. And I thought that the two went hand in hand. And they actually don't go hand in hand. It's a complete, oh, I lost your sound. I don't know what happened to your sound. Maybe you hit the mic.
They
It's
don't they
it's a
don't have to go
separate,
hand in hand.
yeah, they can go hand in hand, but they don't have, it's
They
a
do a
separate
lot,
decision.
but they don't have
It
to.
but it's a separate decision,
Right,
right?
right, right,
Like
right.
there's the decision of, am I going to forgive you for whatever the thing is? And then the next decision is, how do I want to proceed forward with this relationship?
Right.
Whether it's family relationship, spousal relationship, friendship, business partnership, like that, that's a second decision. Like, what does this relationship now look like? Does it go back to the way that it was? Is it now modified? Does it now need to have space? Does it need to completely end? But yet we're not ending on terms of dissonance.
Right.
So seasons.
Seasons, man. Kind of
There's
a
another.
go ahead.
No, I was there's a 30 Seconds to Mars song called Seasons.
Oh,
It's really amazing. You should go listen to
oh,
it.
that band is trash.
I like to lighten the mood at the moment, which I hope this episode is valuable. I feel like it will be. This is
I 100% think it will be.
uh no, Jared Leto. First of all, I love Jared Leto. Always have since whatever the show is, My So-Called Life. I know that you can't stand the dude. But also, if you can just like, if you're here for the beard and are his vibe, then just tune this out right now. But seriously, if you do not follow Jared Leto on Instagram or TikTok, I'm not on TikTok as much as like Instagram, but if you don't follow him, I just love watching his stuff. He's like 50 years old now and he doesn't look 50. Good music coming out, but like I don't know. He's moved a little bit beyond the arrogant phase, and I enjoy his content. So anyways, I won't go into any more than that because some people don't give a shit. I know that you don't, but
That face is a
I
good
just
place for a shovel.
I just want to say that that's one of my like, I just enjoy watching his content.
Well, there you go, gang. You got my lovely wife's social recommendation for the week. Um, hope you got some value out of this. The big nugs, I guess, would be that this too shall pass, be it winter or summer. Like it's gonna go, you're gonna move into the next one eventually. May not be as quick as you like, but it's gonna happen. The other thing is to, like we've talked about on a lot of our other episodes, right? To continue working on yourself and your mindset and the way you look at and approach things, because staying stuck the way you are and viewing things the way you view, you're just going to keep getting more of the same. Like, if
Right.
nothing
And
changes, nothing changes.
step one is awareness. If you're like, okay, where do I even start with this?
Right.
Like, if this is all like new, like step one is awareness. Like you have to be aware, like I talked about at different times, right? When I mentioned in here, like, hey, like I'm fully aware that I have this line of thinking and it's not actually like helpful to me in a positive movement way. Like step one is awareness. So first is identifying, what maybe the thing right in front of you that is like the big rock that keeps like popping up. Ask yourself, like, what can I learn about myself from this? What can I learn about how I think about this situation, or where these feelings are? Like, just start there, right? Just get curious, ask
Right.
some questions, and that'll help you begin to develop awareness. If you already have an awareness for some of these things, then the next step is, what do I need to do to help me navigate this better? And as we talk time and time again, that could be literally going to YouTube or Google or a podcast and getting some ideas there on that particular topic. It could be hiring a coach or mentor who has knowledge in that particular topic or area. It could be getting a part of a community that discusses or talks about that particular area. That would be, once you have the awareness, that would be one of the next steps to take. And then, of course, once you're in the process, all of those next steps are going to be dependent upon where you're specifically at with the situation. But awareness, and then from there, hooking up with mentors or a community or resources to help you really start making some progress through, and then ultimately, hopefully overcoming the whole thing, period.
Boom.
Boom. All right. We love you guys. Appreciate you so much for tuning in. Love to hear your thoughts and comments, or maybe what you connected with in this episode. And as
Let us know
always,
how you love
only
the fact that it's called the Life Unfiltered podcast show.
Christ. As always, all that we ask, well, we ask a couple of things. One, take action, some type of action, right? Don't just listen to these podcasts every single week and then go into your life and be like, man, I got my zip of
I chuckled a couple
motivation or
times.
inspiration, right? Or a little entertainment today. And then you just go on, live your life. Like, actually take
Don't do
something
that.
and do something in your life to make even just a very minute change to move yourself forward. And then from there, make an impact on someone else by shooting
Like,
them the link
comment,
to
share.
this. And again, all you got to do is be like, hey, I listened to this today. It was really, really good. If you got some time, I encourage you to listen to it too. Like, as simple as that. So we love you. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Hit the button. What the hell?